name is Everett. Welcome to Everett's Watercolors. Now today I'm going to do another nice painting on this week, and I'm going to be doing a barn. I was raised on a farm during high school and so forth, and I lived on a farm for about 10 and 15 years, and it was part of my life. It's very important to me. But a barn is something I've always enjoyed painting, and I got lots of memories of the barns on my farm where I grew up on. So today we're going to do a barn, and I think you'll both enjoy. So let me go to my painting table and let me get started. Okay, well here's a photograph I picked of a barn. I think that's almost close to what my memory of all my memories of the barn we had, except that we had a large hayloft up here. So what I've done is I've taken this shape, which is a good shape of a barn, and I've also got another photograph here of a hayloft. And I remember this is something very familiar. I used to have hay up there for the horses and so forth. But when I was growing up, we used to go up there and jump around in the hay. That was a lot of fun. So that's a lot of memories there that I just can't forget. So anyway, today I'm going to do a barn, and so I'm going to make a few changes to this photograph, but and also some of the colors will change and so forth. But that's the basic premise right there. So it may be an impressionistic or it could be representational of this, but I'm not really worried about realism. I'm just worried about getting a nice feeling about a barn. So let me take this over here, and well, first of all, I start out with a design drawing. Now this is just the beginning, but I put a hayloft up here at the top. I'm still going to keep a barn. I'm going to add another door over here. So I made a few changes to the photograph, and also I'm going to add a fence here somewhere along the line. And I may put a more interesting background. I may put some mountains back here behind the barn. So that's my design sketch. I won't go by this either. So anyway, I've transferred. I just got when I do a design drawing, you just get some ideas of things where you're going to put places. Okay, but I am going to have a big barn, so I redrew this on my material here is this is Gemini watercolor paper, quarter sheet. It measures 15 inches long and 12 inches wide, and so you can see the size of the barn. It's going to be, that's the subject today, barn. So we're going to have a big barn today. But in the background, I'm going to put some mountains. I got some trees, and I'm going to put a fence here in the foreground. So that's basically the design I have today. Okay, over here I'm going to use a lot of brushes. I'm going to use my Holbein brushes, which use a 3/4 inch flat. I've got a 1/2 inch flat from Holbein. I've got this number 16 round brush from Holbein. Those brushes are available on my website. I'm also going to use my middle-size Hake brush for wetting the paper down and so forth. In my palette, I've got Holbein's watercolor paints up here, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, and I'll be using alizarin crimson. And down here at the bottom is yellow ochre and burnt sienna, and maybe a little hooker's green now for the trees. I have a few trees in the background. Okay, well that's it. I can't wait to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet down the sky. So take the Hake brush, put some water in. I'm going to go up here, just put a little bit of water up in the sky to get started. It's going to be a very simple sky, not much at all. I got the 3/4 inch brush, so I'm going to put a little bit of ultramarine blue and a touch of cobalt blue. And I'm going to do a simple sky up here across the top of the painting. And I'll go around the barn. Maybe a little darker at the top, slightly darker at the top. Okay, now, okay, that's the sky, and let that dry a little bit. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to So let that dry. Well, it's still wet. I'm going to make a cloud while it's up here. But let me see. I'm going to take this off over here. Okay. So what I do is I'll let the shine just about bits before the shine goes away. It's wet now. You can see the glare of the paper. It's still wet. Okay. So let it dry a little bit more, and I'm keeping my eye on that. So what I'll do, I'll make a small cloud up here in the sky. Just there's not much sky to worry about, but I want to put a little design up there. So what I'm gonna do, I take my take a piece of tissue paper, Kleenex, and I roll it into a shape of a cloud, and then I'm gonna wait for the paint to dry a little bit more, and then I'm gonna line it up here. And what I'll do is I think I'm going to leave this guy over here alone, and I'll bring this over. I'll just put it right here. I'm going to put a cloud just behind the barn, I think, a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just take this roll. I'm just going to press it down into the page. And lift it. Make a small cloud. I'll come over here and make another cloud over here on this side. Okay. And that's my sky. Okay? All right. Now what I'll do now, before dry, let me dry that off. I'm going to use my blow dryer. So I'm going to pause here, let it dry. I'm going to let it dry. Okay, dry the sky. The sky is dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some, with a 1/2 inch Holbein brush. I'm going to mix up a little bit of quinacridone violet. I'm gonna make a few mountains in the background. So I'm gonna make a little blue, little purple mix here with the quinacridone violet, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. All right. I don't want that too dark, but I want a different color in the sky. And I'm gonna come in here with a mountain here, a mountain area in the background. So this purple will be way off background mountains, way off in the background. A little bit of purple here to get the color. Little background color, little something different. Little rough edges. Trees on the top of the mountain up there, little. Up here by the edge of the barn. And remember, watercolor, it looks dark when you put it down, but it dries a lot lighter, about 30% lighter. So you compensate for that. So this color looks dark now, but it'll be much lighter when it dries. We'll come down the edge of the barn again. This is the edge of the roof. We'll get up here. So simple background here, simple background color. So we got some purple mountains. Now I didn't live in a mountain, so this is something I just added to I just something more interest in the painting. I'm moving the paint around just a little bit to spread out the mix. Now over here, I'm going to continue on with the mountain over here on this side of the barn. Come on down over here. On the edge of the rooftop. So I went ahead and integrated this as my idea here, just make a little different of the scenery, make it a little more interesting. Also, it gives me an interesting background, and you know, it's not going to take away from the painting, but it just adds a little more interest. You want to pick a simple background or something, basic colors. They're all going to be. I'm going to try to keep these colors all friendly and together, not too abstracty. Okay, and then back here is a little. I'm going ahead now. I'm going to put another little mountain, but I'm going to add a little bit of blue to it now because it's further back. So now I'm adding in a little ridge line way back behind this, and I'm going to put that in. The further back you go in the so give a little depth to the painting. A little further back you go, the landscape gets bluer. So I'll put that little ridge of blue back there. Okay, and I don't want that too dark, so I wanted to take a clean brush and wipe up some of the excess paint before it dries. Just take a dry brush, wipe that out a little bit. There. Okay. All right. Now let me let that dry a little bit. I guess I can just run it on the edge here. Just along the edge. And dry it up a little bit. You put each layer on, or at least around the edges. You want to make sure you got the painting dry. You check with the back of the hand. It's okay. If the paper feels warm, then the paint's dry. Okay. All right. One more little detail in the background, and then we'll start onto the barn. I'm going to mix up a little bit of tree color, and it's going to be Hooker's Green down here in the corner. And I mix a little bit of burnt sienna in there, kind of tone that down. I may pick up a little bit of the blue. I got blue in the sky, and I'm going to have blue in the trees. Kind of, integrate the colors a little bit. Unify the colors. Okay, and over here I'm going to put in some trees. So all I do is down to the little large strokes. These are going to be evergreen trees here in front of the mountain, behind the barn. So I'm just taking the large strokes here, just blotting, kind of blotting it down a little bit. I'll bring this over so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going right to the edge of the barn here. I want this fairly dark. As I come forward, I want the colors to be a little darker. I'm also going to put mix a little more brown in there. I want to get that color a little bit muted. I don't want it to be too green, so I'm going to have a little bit of brown mixed in there. Make it darker up against the barn. Now I'm a little careful here now. I'll come right next to the barn, so I'm going to turn the painting a little bit so I have my angle of my brush and get the edge of this barn right here. This number 16 round is very good. It comes to a nice sharp point, so it's not easy to control the paints. And that brown mixed in with that green makes a nice dark color, and that's what I want. I want a nice dark background here behind the barn. Okay. Then I'm going to turn the paint a little bit more. I want to make sure get a nice sharp edge here next to this rooftop. So I'm being very careful here. Get a nice straight line. Okay. Let's see. I'll work on the side. I got some trees over here on the right also. Give me a consistent background shape. A little bunch of trees over here behind, a continuation of the background behind the barn. And I got another shape over here. I'm going to protect over here. I put a little shed on the side. So I made a couple changes to the shape of the barn. Added some things that I find interesting. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's a. Now what I'm going to do now is make some of these look like evergreen. I'm going to put a little bit of points out here on the edges, just a little bit. Give it some evergreen tree look. And over here, I'll just a few points. Okay. All right. Well, that takes care of my background. I've got a sky, got a mountain, and I've got some trees here behind the barn. All right. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry there by itself, and I'm gonna go ahead and start getting ready for the paint the barn. Okay. I don't need any more green, so I'm gonna pick the green up, get that out of the way. Take the brush, take the sponge on the palette, move it out of the way. Okay. Now I'm going to use now the 3/4 inch brush again. Yeah, finish with these two. Now for the color of the barn, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start. I'm going to use. It's going to be a red barn, but I'm going to use several different colors here. I'm going to use a alizarin crimson first of all. A alizarin crimson is a nice, rich red, but I'm going to put a starter layer in here. So I want to get a light color. This is like a background base color. So I'm going to start with the alizarin crimson, very light. Put a lot of water in there. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a nice light background that I want. Background color on the barn, like background red. The reason I did that, if you look at the photograph, and I'm going to use it for, you see that there's a light and dark mixture in here of texture on the barn. Well, underneath that is a nice pink or a nice layer. It's not white, but it's a light color. So that's why I'm putting this layer down here to give me that effect. And I've opened this up a little, made it a little bit different here. I'm going to have an open door to this hayloft. So this is where I went added things to the photograph. And the photograph is a reference, and that's all I did use it for. You get a good shape that you like. You find lots of shapes in photographs, but then you want to start adding your own details to what you want to show in your painting. I want to show this hayloft because it's a very important part of my background. My memories, my childhood memories of spending many hours on the farm and also working in the barn and being around this area where we used to cut the grass, the hay, and then we used to pack it up here in the barn for winter time and feeding the horses and the animals on the farm. A lot of good childhood memories. All the way through high school, I was in just prior to going to college is what I lived on the farm all the way up to that point. Growing up on a farm was a great experience. Learn how to raise animals, and also how to farm, how to raise crops, and also to harvest. Very important. How to survive. This background color just to give me a background shade to start with. Very light. Some places will be darker than others. And so now these down here, I don't. It doesn't. I'm gonna. These are the barn doors and so forth. So it's a big barn, but I wanted a nice big barn. This is something. When I say I'm going to paint a barn, I wanted to show my feelings about a barn, and to really paint something that really means a lot and give enough definition of things and have a lot of fun. That's the best part about painting, is just enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the trip, enjoy the journey. I'll come over here on this side. This is a little part over here where you keep the tractors and farm equipment in here on the side of the barn. This is the equipment shed over here on the side. Very important. Keep it out of bad weather and cold weather during the winter. But the animals are inside the barn. They're keeping warm. You got the hay around them, and it's a very, very comfortable place to stay. Just to work in the barn every day. Okay. Now this section over here is going to be in shadow, so it's going to be red, but it's going to be in shadow. And also back here, there's this little, I've extended this to a little shed here on the right. They keep some of the feed, some of the horse feed, and some of the other seeds and so forth for the farm over here in this little shed. Oh, okay. Well, there's the starting point of the red. Now I got to let that dry, and but while that's drying, I can go ahead and paint the rooftop too. Let's see, rooftop, so it's not going to stop me there. Okay, I'm going to change brushes now. Now I'm going to use a 1/2 inch, and now I'm going to use I'm going to paint a gray roof, gray tin. So I mix up a little bit of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna. And I'm going to make it light. I'm not going to make it too dark. So put a lot of water in that. So there's my gray. And I'm going to come up here. I'm going to put this gray top of this rooftop. So the rooftop's going to be a tin roof, which were very popular back in those days. A tin roof on top of the barn. Yeah. Okay, go on down. Yep, got a little bit of green in the paint. That's all right. You know what? A little bit of green there. You get a little bit of reflection coming from those trees. That's not a bad idea to add a color to something close by that provides a little bit of unity. So just splash a little green in here, right here, on top of the gray. Reflection from the color from the trees. And that started out to be an accidental brushstroke, but then I thought, well, hey, that's a good idea to have a little bit of green in there. A little bit of color, not too carried away. There's a little bit of side stroke here on this section of the barn, the roof. Very important section. Keep the interior dry. Okay, well, I've got the baseline there. Okay, I'm going to also put a little tin roof over here on this little shed on the side. Put a little tin roof over here. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, I got that basic point down. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start putting some other colors in to get things going here. I think what I'll do, that's this part here. Red paint. I'm going to leave that brush has got red in it. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go back and put more red on the barn. But what I can do here now is pick up. Let's see, this brush here. That's got blue in it. And so I'm going to pick up another brush. Let's see. I can use a bristle brush. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre. And I'm going to put a little bit of grass. Mix in a little bit of green. Put a little bit of grass and stuff here on the ground. Okay, so just a little bit of groundwork down here. So I'm going to put a little bit of brown grass here. In the foreground. A little bit of grass, a little bit of dirt here in the foreground. Brown grass. Using a bristle brush. Now I'm painting around these fence posts here. I'll probably leave those lighter value. I'll put a little bit of shadow around in certain parts of the foreground here. But we'll start out with it. This is all what I'm doing now is getting a base coat down over all the painting. A base coat. And that's always a good idea. Get a base coat going. Then you go in and add details. Add a little more water to that. Okay. Okay, there we are. I've got that pretty well started. Now another thing I want to do. Well, I got the gray. Now I got this is grass and there's hay at the bottom, so it's a little bit of mixture of everything. But up here in the hayloft, the reason I designed this is I'm going to put hay up here in the hayloft. So I'm going to use a little bit of this same brown, which could be the grass or hay. Brown grass lying on the ground. And this is the hay that's up in the barn. So I'm going to put a little bit of this up there. This is the color I want to use, okay? again, it's another base color. Okay, a little bit of hay up there. I'm gonna, it'll all be changed when I get started. Now what I'll do there now, I think what I'll do is I'll put that, I like that gray. So I'm gonna put gray here on the doors on the inside. Okay, I'm gonna use gray. I like that gray. Again, a little continuity, a little bit of a unity here. Not getting too many colors, mixtures, but a little bit of unity here on the painting. I got gray on the rooftop and gray on the inside of the wood. It's not, this part of the door is not painted. It's natural wood, but I'm going to make it gray. You can make it whatever color you want. Okay, let that dry. All right, and the windows and so forth, they're going last because they're going to be dark. They're all going to be in shadows and stuff like that, so we'll leave those alone. The windows. All right, now I need to dry this up a little bit. So let me pause and we'll dry the painting. Okay, it's dry. Just want to leave it time to waste on drying. Okay, now this is the fun part. It's what I'm waiting for. What I'm going to do now is take my 3/4 inch brush. Now I'm going to mix up a little bit darker red now. Use that alizarin crimson. This is going to be a darker paint now on the outside of the barn, but you'll see why I started that way. So alizarin crimson. I'm going to pick up a little bit of purple red. Maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. Make a nice dark brown, a nice dark reddish brown. Nice mix. Go ahead. Alizarin crimson, pyrrole red, and burnt sienna. I'll make sure I have enough here now. I'll have a nice patch of color. Now you'll notice now I've got it where I can see the brush strokes. I'm going to do a dry brush technique here, but I want to make sure I got enough wet paint on the brush. And what I'm going to do is just going to take the brush. I'm just going to flatten it right into the paint. Lower the sides. Just tap it in there. Load it up. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the sponge. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a dry brush stroke. Now I lay the brush flat down on the board. And I'm going to get the angle here and I'm going to drag it straight down. Now this is all impressionistic. I'm using the photograph a little bit, but I'm also using some of my own. Now change the angle here slightly. Make sure I'm laying it flat right on the board and dragging it down. And I'm getting these irregular marks that I'm looking for. It looks like the boards in the top not just the picture, but also in my mind, the boards. Now I change the angle of the brush now. Change the angle of the brush and drag it straight down. Got the angle of the brush with the rooftop and then drag it straight down. Now I load the brush. I just pat it into the puddle here. Tap it on the sponge and then I got to dry it and lay it flat on my stroke. Get the angle I want, come straight down. Another angle. Lay the brush flat, get that nice streak all the way down. dry brush stroke. Load the brush. Over here, just a little bit more. Load the brush. Well, I think I'll take my round brush now and put a few more lines in there. So load up the same paint, and now I'm going to go in and emphasize some of those lines. These are the boards. These are the boards, and the paint is in this particular photograph, it was all faded and everything. Emphasize some of those board shapes. I think I'll make sure I got the edge nice and dark over here. Emphasize the edge of the barn. And over here, along the doorway here. Okay, all right. That's if you remember the photograph, it's it's got a faded woods and so forth, and that's what I try to emulate there. Get a little darker and so forth. But I think I like that. So I got a nice, interesting pattern. Okay, now now we got to work a little bit more on detail now. Okay, I've got the basic things down. Now I'm just going to add some more detail. My flat brush. Okay, I need a dark color. I need a dark shadow pattern over here. So I'm using a little bit of ultramarine. Excuse me, quinacridone. Put a little bit of Payne's gray in there. Got a nice dark shadow color over here. And over here is the shadow. So I'll put the shadow in on this side of the barn. I have the lights coming from in the front here, and this is the shadow side. I'll leave a little white strip there on the corner, just to, maybe it's a little trim on the edge. Okay, all right, that's a shadow. Okay, now the part I really like is these barn doors. And so I'm going to go ahead and put in the dark shadows now inside. This is an open door, and I'm going to leave this open. It would the barn door, the doorway would swing back and be propped up from the ceiling or hooked to the ceiling. And it would hinge back. This whole door would hinge back, so you have a nice big opening. And this is where the tools would be, the tractors and the farm equipment and so forth would be stored in here. Okay, now as I come down, I'm going to put a little bit of lighter color now. I'm going to have like a little bit of glow here. Maybe the light's hitting the bottom of this opening here. So we'll have a little bit of sunlight coming into this doorway because it's open. And I'll build the shadow better, but I want to get the base. I want to get the base coat down here first of all. Okay. So that's simulating a little bit of you see a little bit inside the. It's going to be dark on the top, but it gets lighter as you come down. Okay. The windows and so forth are going to be dark, going to be shadow. So this is going to be dark up here. It's kind of a vent where where the air gets up and it keeps the air from moving inside the loft up there. Here's another window over here. We're lighting for the horses and animals inside. Have a light coming into the barn. And I think I'm going to do here. I'm going to add a dark red door here. A little trim around it. I think it'll make it more interesting. It'll be dark red. I'm using the one. I changed my mind. I was going to leave it. I was going to leave it something else, but I've got to decide. I looked at the photograph and I said, okay, it's got a red door, so I'll use that. So I'm using some of the information from the photograph, but also from my own feelings about this section. And I'll pick up the smaller. So it's a Lissom Crimson, nice rich red color. Paint around this fence post. Show that off. Okay, nice red. Okay, and the red door with the red barn is fine. I like that. Okay, I want to add a little bit of shadow now up in the hayloft. So remember I showed you this photograph here. I used here's a photograph of a hayloft. You see the shadow up here on the top, and you see the light hitting in the forward area. And I'm going to leave these doors. I'm going to add also a little bit of design there. So I'm going to put shadows here in the top of this. Made it a little bit darker. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's Gray. Darken it up a little bit. Show real shadows in there. I'll pick up a little bit of lighter color now. piles of hay. It's inside the loft. Okay, now I'll use that gray color again. I like that gray color, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And I'll paint the edge of the doorway up here. Make that gray. Same way down here. Make this gray. Unify that whole section up here. Okay. Now, for a little definition here, I'm going to mark some boards up here on the door. These are the framework of the door itself. Okay, that make that interesting. Okay, now the only detail I'm going to put now is this start here in the background. I'm going to put a little bit of. I'm going to put a fence back here. Just going to show the silhouette of a fence in the back, behind the barn. But there's a back door here that we can let the horses out into the back area for exercise, stuff like that in the back. And let's see, I think what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of, let's see, do I want to put, yeah, I'm going to put another little window in there here, this little shed, put a little window. Over there. And I think what I'll do is finish off the foreground here. I'm going to put a little bit of grass. I'll mix up a little bit of brown, a little bit of green. And I'll take my bristle brush here, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of lay in a little patch of grass along this fence line. Okay. Now what we'll do with these fences now, I'm just going to take just a light layer of gray, just a light layer of gray. I'll leave that white against there, and the bottom section I'm going to put a little bit of gray on. I want that white section to show off. So a little bit of gray all around, so that kind of a little bit of unity here. Put a little gray down here in the foreground on these fence posts. A little bit hint over there. Okay. All right, I'm going to add a few shadows now, and we'll finish this off. I'm using my little round brush here. Now, shadow pattern, a little bit of ultramarine blue, mixed in with a little bit of quinacridone violet. Get a nice, maybe a purpley, blue-purple shadow color. A little bit Payne's gray to dull it down. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of shadows now to this. Underneath the roof, under the eaves here, I'm going to put a little shadow here. I'm going to leave a little bit of trim. I think that little white trim is very interesting on the edge of the barn. I'm going to leave that little white trim. A little bit of shadow here. And I'll work on the other side over here. I'll bring it on down because the sun's shining right on the front of this barn. So the shadow is going to be right behind it. Okay. And a little shadow under the shed here. Keeping that white trim. I think a white trim makes it more interesting. I'll put a little shadow here under the doors against the wall. Okay. All right. And down here I'm going to put some shadow on the ground. The building here is in shadow, so I'm going to put a little bit of shadow here behind the barn here. Leave this fence post showing. Paint around it because it's still in light. I'll put the shadow here of the barn on the ground. There. Okay. And there'll be shadows here from these fence posts. Okay. Now the last thing I want to do is put in some wires. And what I'm going to do is take a nice, I'll find it. Yeah, here it is. Okay, this is a liner brush, small liner brush. I'm going to take some dark paint here, Payne's gray, a little bit of ultramarine blue, some of that quinacridone violet, whatever it is, and load that brush up. I load it just like I do there we go, liner brush. And now I'm going to add in some wires here along this fence. And what I'm going to do is bring this down. And connect these poles together. Also give a little direction. I'm going to leave this open. This is the gate. So you can walk into here. I'm going to leave that open. And I'm going to continue the line down here. And I'll put a second line. This will provide a little perspective now, because I think things get smaller as you go back. That'll be the walkway into the barn, okay? And I've got, I can put a little bit of wires on this one also. Little wires from the barn. Over to here. Be consistent. And I'll continue that fence line in the back here. So we'll start here with okay. Okay. All right. You know, only a little touch up I would have here would be to maybe put a little more dark up into the shadows here in a hayloft. Make that pop out. Over here in the shed. Because that dark corner is way in the back, so it's very little light coming up there. And it gradually, as it comes forward, it gets lighter. So it'll make the simulation of that part there. And the rest is okay. Okay, that's my barn. So let's put a frame around that. Let's see. Let me take you over to my close-up camera, and we'll take a good look at this. And we'll bring this over here. My little lights. Put in the green mat board around it. Wow. I'm going to show off that back edge there. Hoop, there we are. There's my barn. Living on the farm. Look at that. Nice big red barn with lots of texture on there. The paint. There's a hayloft up here with hay, with the window, with the doors open. Little air ventilation in there. Shed over here, background mountains, trees, blue sky, and shadows on the ground. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. So I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. Let's go back to my main camera. Hey, well, I'll tell you, that brings back a lot of childhood memories. I lived on a farm quite a while I was growing up, up until I went to college. And then working every summer there and everything, it was something I'll never forget. And barns are always another favorite subject of mine. I have a lot of favorite subjects, but the barns especially. They have a lot of personal feeling about them and so forth. And today's barn gave me a lot of way to express that. It was expressionism, the colors, the contrast, the shapes, everything. Just kind of let it all happen. And I hope you enjoyed that. Get a picture of a barn or find one and get one out of a magazine or a book and try it out. It's a lot of fun. And I hope today I'll show you some techniques I used and some colors and things that you can use to make your painting more interesting. So that's my painting for today. I'll be back later with Everett's Simply Drawing with Everett today or sometime today. And I'll get that out on Thursday also. So until next week, if you like this channel, please subscribe. And if you subscribe, you'll be notified of my next video. And on the weekend, I also do Anyone Can Draw with One Line Only. And you may enjoy that. It comes out on Sundays. So until next week, you all stay safe and stay warm. And until then, take care. Bye.